following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Women empower women. We're daughters, wives, sisters, and mothers making strides in our own lives. We're women in sports, and what matters to you matters to us. Let's talk about it all on The Playmaker. Here's your host, Nikki Harrison.
Hello, welcome to The Playmaker. It's the third episode, and I could not be more thrilled because the ladies that are joining me today are what this show is exactly all about. I've got two women that are bosses, behind the scenes, making moves, getting things done, and they are playmakers. You may not recognize their names, you may not recognize their faces, but they are what we are all about here on The Playmaker. I'm Nikki Harrison, and let me introduce you to Stacy Bowers, General Manager of the Cowboys Club, and to Dana Jones, Membership Manager of Formation. Thank you, ladies, for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Quite the introduction. A lot of pressure now.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say, you two are both examples of having an idea of what you want your life, your career to be, and something changes, and you decide, you know what, I want to do something else. You take a leap, you don't let that ugly word no stop you, and you just go for it. Stacy, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. Pressure's on. Pressure's on. Yes.
You got your degree in finance from Texas Tech. And let me just say, both of you are Texas Techies.
Yes.
Right.
I love
Exactly.
that.
Right.
I had no idea, but I'm excited about that. That's awesome. But again, you got your degree in finance from
Yes.
Texas Tech. You had aspirations of being an investment banker.
I did.
But something happened along the way, and then you were a hostess for a restaurant, and you loved it.
Mm-hmm.
You loved meeting people and being around people, and you helped open Hotel Zaza
I did.
here in Dallas. Very trendy spot. I think I remember hearing how Britney Spears stayed there a few years ago. Very cool.
I was actually her bartender when she was staying, so that's quite interesting that that you picked up on she was there.
I do. I remember
Yes.
that. I remember that. That's awesome. Well, then after Hotel Zaza, you sought after a job for Craft Restaurants, very lovely restaurant in the very trendy W Hotels.
Yes.
And I remember you telling me that you bombed that interview. Talk about that interview.
Yes. I think it was the worst interview I'd ever had. I couldn't complete sentences. I was really intimidated by that restaurant group. I had worked for a celebrity chef in Dallas. I had worked for Stephen Piles for 7 years. And I heard that Tom Colicchio was coming in town. And I knew that he was from New York. And I had lived in Texas my entire life. I had grown up in Austin, made the transition to Dallas, opening up Hotel Zaza. And when I heard that Tom Colicchio was coming to Dallas, opening up a restaurant at the W Hotel, I said, I have to have that job. And when I bombed that interview, that didn't stop me.
That's good.
The crazy thing is that I heard from sources being in the business that they had hired a food and beverage director, and that person was moving from Philadelphia to Dallas, and he was going to make a small stint in New York. So I had called the director of human resources at Kraft, and I said, have you hired the food and beverage director? He said, yes. His name was David Madison. And I said, fantastic. He says, he's going to arrive in about a week. So I knew that if he was going to be moving from Philadelphia to New York or from New York to Dallas, that he would make a small stay in New York making the transition. And because we were at the W Hotels, I just assumed that he would have a reservation there. Mm-hmm. So I called all of the hotels in New York.
Oh my gosh.
And the third one that I called, I called to say, I'm calling to confirm David Madison's reservations for Crafted Hospitality. And they said, yes, he's actually coming in tomorrow. I said, fantastic. I said, may I leave a message for him? I left a message and said, I'm your service director in Dallas, Texas, and I would love to speak to you. He checked in, got the message. I spoke to him from New York to Dallas, and essentially made him believe that I was his service director. I don't think that he had spoken to Katie Greco to let her know that he had been speaking with me.
The person that you bombed.
That I bombed the interview.
Oh.
We ended up becoming fast friends over the 24 hours it took him to get to Dallas. I had him meet me at my favorite restaurant. Dana and I have actually dined at that restaurant together. And I had 20 of my girlfriends stop in every 15 minutes. And at that moment in time, he decided that I should be the service director.
That's amazing. I mean, that took some major guts to do that.
Did. And I didn't believe that it was actually going to happen. And then I just had to put the work in after that.
Wow. So you're at Kraft, you're loving it. You've been there for about 10 years.
10 years.
And the Soho House shows up. And because I had heard of the Soho House, but I really didn't know what it was.
Sure.
Explain what it is and what your success was like at the Soho House.
Absolutely. They tried to romance me for about 6 months.
Okay.
I was very happy with Tom. And like you said, I'd been working there for about 10 years. And 6 months into it, they finally said, just have coffee. And so I said, okay, I'll meet you for coffee. I met for coffee. That interview lasted for the next 3 days.
Wow.
On the third day, I was flying to New York to meet the owner of Soho House. Soho House is the #1 private social club in the globe and around the world.
Well, second behind Cowboys Club,
second,
of course.
Yes, second. True. Thank you for that, Dana. Yes. So I was very intimidated by.
I mean, it's very exclusive.
Very
members only. Who's who
Yes.
type people.
So it's a creative house. So it's very different than what we're doing here in Frisco with the Cowboys Club. It is artists, musicians, writers, producers. It is a creative house, and essentially they wanted it to be a home away from home, and for you to work in that space. There are many movies that were written at Soho House. I had known of it because I had been living in LA for 10 years, and I actually went and met a friend of mine who was a member. And I looked around the space and I said, oh, these people need help. Little did I know that I was going to be that person to help them. So they hired me as the GM, and then I slowly became the director of operations for the West Coast.
Wow.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, Dana. Now, you started off as a TV news reporter.
Right.
Oh my God. Was this in Amarillo?
Amarillo and Lubbock.
Amarillo and Lubbock.
Yep.
And then you found yourself in sports for the Phoenix Coyotes. And then you are then the senior sales consultant at AT&T Stadium for the Dallas Cowboys.
Correct.
What happened in between there? Because that is
I ask myself the same question every day. What just happened? Like going through school, through college, even my senior year in high school, I think that's when I decided I wanted to be in broadcast journalism.
Okay.
And all through college, never waved from that. It was broadcast journalism all the way. Got my first reporting job right out of school, was the weekend news reporter. And then I got my promotion out of Lubbock to Amarillo and worked for ABC for that big town. And it was not what I thought it was going to be. They teach you one thing in school, but the actual real life experience is like completely
Totally different.
Right? And every morning we'd come in there and have to pitch new story ideas. And I'd heard about this family of 8 that left for a picnic for Mother's Day, came back, and their home was crisp. It burnt down completely, and they were in a trailer home. So I tell my news director, I'm like, gosh, yeah, this is horrible. I mean, they came home with only what's on their backs is all they have left, and he's like, that's horrible. Like, hey, how many fatalities? I'm like, no, thankfully out of a family of 8, they were all together, so everyone's out, but they have nothing, And so it was like this pivotal moment where it's like, this gloom and doom of journalism isn't me. And that was the path I was on, And so I'm like, this is not the right fit, for me. I need something not so gloom and doom, I guess. Or if you're going to do so much gloom and doom, I'm going to need to make a lot more money. Because I made pennies as my first salary. It was horrendous. But I ended up getting to do the story, and we interviewed the family, and so many donations ended up coming in that I think the family actually ended up better than they started off. And so I'd have other members of that family call and just in tears thanking us for running the story, because so many people came out to help. These it's an apartment complex, donated 2 of their apartments that were right next to each other. So the whole family, because 8 people, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, and who do you know that can take in 8 extra people?
Right.
It's a lot of people. So, to me, it was like, that was my moment. I'm like, all right, well, sports was always my second passion. So before Phoenix, actually went back to Lubbock and worked for a minor league hockey team called the Lubbock Cotton Kings. I know.
Boy.
Yes.
Okay.
Our mascot was terrifying. This is a big cotton bowl with a mean, angry face, and kids were crying all the time when the cotton ball came around. But so I did that for a year, and I was the game ops director. So I got to do the intermission interviews with the players, and then I wrote like the game script. No idea what I'm doing. But what I loved about the experience I gained with minor league sports is everyone wears so many different hats. So I got a lot of different experience in that. And then a year later, I hear that they're doing group interviews for the Phoenix Coyotes. I'm like, okay, this is my chance. And I've never lived outside of Texas before. Like, Little Miss Independent, I'll show them what I've got, you know? So I went out to Phoenix, and there's 300 people interviewing for it. Telling the Cotton King story, I guess, stuck out.
You know, has with us.
Has it? And so, like, they would break us up in like groups of 5 and put us into different suites. And they made us do an infomercial on their new arena because they just built the jobbing.com arena. And so hopefully people were paying attention to the first part of this interview to be able to do this. And so I'm at the end of a row of 5. I'm the only female in there. And the more I have time to think about something, the more I will second guess and try to like, no, I should say this, not this, or well, what if I did this and that, right? And then if people go before me, I'm like, well, I was going to say that. Now I can't say that. So like I'm really overthinking it, which I wonder if that's what you did on your interview that you bombed. Did you over prepare, or did you psych yourself out?
I think I just had no clue what I was getting into.
Right.
I was working for a New York chef, and the standards were very different. I went in intimidated, and that was the first and the last time that had ever happened to me before.
Wow.
Right.
I just gained confidence after bombing it.
Right.
And the crazy thing is that Katie actually talks about that interview all the time.
Really?
Yes.
Well, it's good that you took that from that and you learned from it.
I learned something, absolutely.
Well, and you didn't give up.
That's right.
Oh,
I mean, look what you ended up doing. Like, that's crazy.
10 years.
I love that. I absolutely love that. But so this guy is stumbling with his words back to our little infomercial, and I look like a hero, and I'm like, would you like me to go first? Would that give you some time to think about it? But in my head, I'm like, please let me go first.
Let me
I
go.
Yeah. And he's like, yes, please. And so I go, and what I loved about it is that every person that went after me, first half of their pitch was mine, you know? And I was like,
Brilliant.
done. And I got this, oh, she's brilliant. I'm like, no, just got ahead of you. Like, I got to say it first, so then I didn't have to worry about it. And of the 300, I was the only one that got hired out of that group.
Wow. Well, now fast forward to today.
Right.
Membership manager of Formation.
Right.
This completely new, innovative concept of entrepreneurs having a workspace where they can work around other like-minded individuals and potentially collaborate and come up with the next big thing. What do you see for the future workforce? I mean, talk about this concept of Formation.
Well, you know, it's great. It's a collaborative workspace. So you just have a mix of entrepreneurial or just well-experienced business professionals in the same room. And I'm thinking all these years I spent doing premium sales for the Cowboys, sitting right next to my coworkers, trying to sell the same exact thing I'm doing, would have loved to have been in an environment where I've been surrounded by potential prospects. You know, I was like, gosh, I feel like we wasted a lot of time just hanging out with ourselves in the office, when this way you're getting out, you're getting in front of other decision makers, and then you're kind of getting inspired to think differently. And I think one of the big draw for our members for Formation is we have this series called the Cowboy series. So each month we'll bring in another Cowboys executive, and we'll cover different business topics. So the point isn't to tell you how to do anything, it's to shed insight on how we as an organization approach different subjects. And our members can take from that, it might inspire them to think differently, think outside the box, you know, a little bit. In October we have Derek Eagleton. Which is
That's great.
Big name around here. So everyone's really looking forward to that because everyone loves everything he's involved in.
For sure.
And whatnot. And our members just are really excited to hear that. And, you know, when we were thinking about some of the marketing stuff for Formation, me and some of the marketing team, we all got together and like, let's talk to our friends. Like, here's some ideas we have, but we're so in the brand. And it's like, we may be missing things that are standing out to someone who doesn't see this every day.
Sure.
Right? And so, like, I love that thought about it, because when you're surrounded with other people not in your brand, not even in your industry, who knows what you could be inspired by?
Absolutely.
You know?
And just to your point, it's just like, at one point, the idea of Soho House was so new. Well, this concept is so new. I mean, I think of if you were in a boardroom 30 years ago and you said, you know what, I'm going to start a taxi company with no taxis, or I'm going to start a hotel chain with no hotels. And
They would have
yet,
thought you were crazy.
absolutely, you would have been laughed out of the building. But we've got Uber, we've got Airbnb,
Absolutely.
we've got Amazon with no brick and mortar, and now we've got Formation.
Right? Right?
What do you see changing as we work, every day for the future?
As Cowboys,
Well, just the workforce in general. I mean, do you see this changing corporate America?
yes. And it's starting to trend that way as well. And what's great is you think about how much time you spend in your car going to and from
Yes.
your main office building. But if you have like a satellite option, if you will, and it just makes more sense to go here versus way out there for a meeting, and especially if it makes more sense for you and your client, you're saving both of time on both sides of that, and then you're getting to the point. I think that's great, and I think people work in different ways, and I think if corporations give their employees the ability to kind of choose where they want to work from, how their work style is going to be, as long as they're showing to be productive, then I think this gives everyone a lot more room to work with. In my previous role, there's about 17 other sales consultants, and we're similar in a way. We're salespeople, but at the same time, we're so different.
Right.
And what works for my former colleague, Ashley Raines, would be a completely different approach for me. Like, we work completely differently, but both successful. So it's like, let Ashley do her thing, let Dana do her thing, let Brett do his style, and as long as your style is working for you,
Go with it.
they let you go with it. It gives you freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Stacy, back to you.
Okay.
Okay, so we're still at the Soho House.
Yes, we are.
Making moves,
Making moves.
rubbing elbows
Yes.
with celebrities and movie stars.
Yes.
And then you're fine. You're content. You're loving your job.
I was content, but I knew that there was going to be something else.
Okay.
I didn't know what that was.
Well,
And
that something else was a phone call
that something else was a phone call.
from a guy named
Jerry Jones.
Tell me about that phone call.
And I had spent a month in Bali, came back to Los Angeles.
Awesome.
I was 12 hours being back at home, and a phone call from Jerry Jones. Will you take this phone call? And the answer would be, of course. I often received phone calls from producers, writers, all the time. It was the norm for me being at Soho House.
Yeah.
And it was, give me ideas on how we can design our home, all of these things, because that encompassed a lot of the things that we did at Soho House.
Okay.
And design was a big part of it. And, the conversation was, we're opening up a private social club. I don't know if they called it that at the time. I think it was a country club meets NFL. And
Okay.
by that time, no clue, didn't know anything. And that was towards the end of the conversation. It was, we're opening up a private social club in Frisco. And I'm thinking, San Francisco.
Of course.
Amazing. This is incredible. And then I said, my goodness, I was just in San Francisco 6 months ago. It is very difficult to open up a private social club. You actually have to absorb a private club that's already been in existence in order to take over their license. You can't do something new.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, wow, whomever this is must have the inside track. We're talking. And then this gentleman is talking about the demographics of this social club. None of it sounds like San Francisco. And I said, where's this Frisco that you speak of? Right outside of Dallas. And I chuckled to myself and I said, I had lived here. No one went past Plano.
Yeah.
And if you did, you had to pack a lunch. And you weren't going for a private social club. You were going to maybe bale hay or do something such as that. And so I said, wow, this is interesting. Then towards the end of the phone call, it was, I just own a football team. Okay, that Jerry Jones. What are you doing tomorrow? I'm not sure what I'm doing in 10 minutes. Much less tomorrow. Can you get on a plane? Got on a plane. Had an interview with my boss, who was my boss at the time, at 7 a.m. with Chad Estes. And I'm in hospitality, and I've been in hospitality for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
I won't give you the exact number because it's continuing to change, clearly. And met at AT&T Stadium, iced green tea in my hand at 7 a.m. Typically, that's when hospitalitarians are going to bed.
Right.
So I was exhausted. and meeting Chad Estes and meeting a recruiter from Legends, having this conversation. And I remember one of the first questions I said, what was the vetting process? You have 800 members. Talk to me about the application. And everyone just kind of looked down. And I said, oh, we have a problem. And they said, you said we. And I said, oh my goodness, wait, just a minute. Throughout the entire day, I was shuttled in between AT&T, Valley Ranch, meeting with the family, coming back, meeting with everyone else. I met with Heidi, who does HR for the Dallas Cowboys. And towards the end, they said, we have one more person we want you to see. And that was Jerry Jones. He was actually giving a summit to all of the top executives at Legends. And I sat there for an hour and a half, and I think my jaw was on the ground. He was innovative, he was creative. He shed a tear because he was talking about how passionate he was about what he was doing. And it didn't all encompass football. It encompassed the fans and the brand. And I said, my goodness, who would not want to work for this family? So I decided to take the job.
Wow.
And 3 years later, here I am.
Wow. And you did something very bold. You held off opening the club because you once you came in, you held off for, what was it, a year?
It was a year.
And you saw, no, I want it this way. And you were strategic and determined. How did that go off?
Not well. It did not go off well for the 800 members that had committed to us opening late 2016, early 2017.
Side note to interject, the department I was in was responsible for selling those memberships.
Wow.
So
people were upset with both
and it
of
was
you.
a country club meets the NFL,
Yes,
which
and
I think makes you cringe,
Yes,
right?
it does. And I said, never say that again because it doesn't make sense. Like, no one's going to understand what that means because I didn't.
Right.
And I had not been absorbed into the culture to even be able to paint the picture for myself, to understand that. And so the angry phone calls of like, who is this girl? Who's coming in? Why is it delayed? Would be filtered to Dana and all of that team. And they say, oh no, we have a director now. So let's put Stacy on the phone. So for my first year here, because it was delayed, 1 year, I spoke to all 800 members.
Wow.
They got to know me.
Yes.
They got to understand my history, the career path. I broke down a few of the things that were going to happen. And they asked me really incredible questions. Why are we delaying the project? And I said, I want to enhance the member experience. Oh.
And you guaranteed,
Amazing.
you said, if you're not happy, you get a full refund.
Without a doubt. I said, if you walk into the space and at any moment in time during that first experience, you say, this is not for me, no problem.
Wow. Now, both of these are members only, exclusive, high-end clientele. Would the both of you say that it is an art to learn and know your clientele? Because I watched you. You make every person feel special.
Yes.
You know their names. Is that an art? And how do you learn that?
It's an art. We often teach it at the club as well.
Okay.
We make sure that when we are in conversation with people that we don't know, that we at least say their names 3 times. And when you say their names 3 times, you say it differently. You say Miss Bowers, Stacy, and then you can kind of figure out, okay, this is the person that I need to get to know. Then that extends to their family. If we didn't have that relationship, people would not feel as if it's a home away from home. Okay. And that's how they feel about that space. For the first 6 months, no one was coming to this club. All 800 members that had signed up because they didn't understand the concept and they didn't know how to use it. So we had to educate them in the best possible way. Bring your laptop, have an intimate meeting, then have lunch, then have a snack, then let's have cocktails, then move in for dinner. And it took us, I would say it took us 1.5 years for everyone to understand how they could use the space. And what I can say that throughout the community and throughout Frisco, everyone says that's where you make the deal. That's where you sign the deal. That's where you bring everyone. It is a beautiful thing when we see all of our members, they walk through and say, this is our pool table. And every week of the game next week, we put the 8-ball as the opposing team. This is our Sports Illustrated wall. This is where we walk the team. This is where we watch the team practice. They're really involved in most everything that we do, and that's partly because of the team that we have there.
That's awesome. Now, before we wrap, Cowboys Club was recently featured in Sports Illustrated. You brought up the Sports Illustrated wall.
It certainly was.
Great article.
It was.
And they talked about how it's a safe haven for the players, and they can come and relax and have a good meal and shoot pool and not have to worry about upsetting a fan because they didn't get an autograph.
Absolutely.
Or couldn't take a picture. But there are no autographs. There are no pictures. There are no phones.
No. There are, but we have
Okay.
to we gently remind everyone that we have certain rules that are in place. And we do that, and we might have to gently remind the same person 10 times.
Okay.
And when I actually started becoming familiar with the players, I let them know the rules, and I said, there's no way you're going to be able to accomplish this. We can't go anywhere without anyone talking to us. I think Tyrone Crawford is probably my biggest success story. He now comes to the club and is more inclined to talk to people because people aren't talking to him. So he feels as if he is in a safe environment to engage in conversation. And that's essentially what we wanted to happen. We allowed it to happen, and it happened organically. But there are no photos, there's no videos, there's no introducing yourself to people that you don't know. We want it to happen, like I said, organically, and it certainly has for the players. And they definitely utilize it as their safe haven.
Okay. Well, we got about...
Sorry, I'm going to interject
okay.
real quick.
Please.
I'd say over half of Formations members are also Cowboys Club members, and it's so funny when they first came in, they're like, got their phone out, and they're like, oh, can we take a picture? It is so ingrained in their heads that I wonder how far outside of the star does this go for them? You know, I think everyone's scared to take pictures now because they've been so trained.
Well, the crazy thing is, if I'm walking through a grocery store, which doesn't happen often, I'll often say, oh, you need to put your... Oh, no, I'm like,
Never mind.
you're not at work.
I'm not at work.
You're not at work. Keep your phone out. Enjoy your life. And I carry on, so...
Well, quickly before we go, what would you say to a woman who wants to take that leap and is afraid because they think that they want to get in sports and they feel that it's male dominated, or that they don't look a certain way, or that they think they may be too old? How would you tell that woman to push that fear aside and just go for it? What would you say to her?
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Not my quote. We all know that. But that's exactly it. I would tell that individual to look at LinkedIn and look at these teams' employees on LinkedIn. And I can think of numerous females in the Cowboys organization alone that not just have jobs, but have high up jobs. You know, and I think you'd be surprised how many of us there really are in there. And I encourage you, if at first you don't succeed, apply for a different one. Just get your foot in the door, wherever you can get your foot in the door, and then network. And you meet the people that you want to eventually work with. And don't burn any bridges. It's also what I tell people. But get in where you can get in, and then you network, and you've got this. I've never seen anyone in my about 10 years with the Dallas Cowboys get turned down for age or if they're male or female. It's it's how you work is what gets you hired. So,
wow. Ladies, I am humbled. I am humbled, and I thank you for coming in and sharing your stories, because this conversation that we just had today is what this show is all about. You two, playmakers, hands down. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
I wish you guys nothing but success.
right back at you, Nikki.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, that was another episode of The Playmaker. I'll see you back here next week.